Who this been watching? The live movie recap review is brought to you only by me, who this in-depth, thorough, analytical, so deep, like we would go in BBC of a white girl's ass with no BBL involved, just straight BBC, white butt cheeks, all involved, all in depth, all up in your business like that. Really deep. Today we're going to focus on a very heralded, esteemed, beloved franchise as far as movies are concerned that has now officially turned, since its first entry has been released, 45 years old, since it debuted on us November 21st, 1976 to be exact. And I'm referring to none other than the Rocky movie franchise. 45 years later. I wasn't alive, surprisingly, as old as I look. I know you're an old fuck. That's a comment I get a lot. With a LOL behind it too, as a joke. I hope it comes from a very sincere place, which is as a very thinly veiled joke thrown my way at my expense of looking old as fuck. But still, Rocky, 45 years old now. The first entry into the franchise that turned into 2, 3, 4, 5. Took a long ass break. Balboa. Then the whole kind of branch off, add-on DLC to the original fucking franchise itself. Creed 1 and Creed 2. All excellent in their own sense. But let me not... Okay, asterisks next to 4 and 5, of course. Balboa redeemed itself, even though it wasn't named 6, as it probably should have. And then, if anything, Rocky 1 should have been Rocky Balboa, since it was a story of. But then, maybe he thought back then, Rocky and Balboa together in the title would have been like overkill. Hey, yo, who even cares about this bum? They gotta know his story first. Because there's a lot of backstory involved with Rocky even existing in the first place too. So I guess Rocky Balboa would have been like a mouthful, would have been too confusing. Is it Balboa Rocky? Are we going first name last name first, whatever? So they just decided to go with Rocky. Which I'm surprised. Even up until 1976, there ain't been that many movies up until that point released in movie history that someone didn't already do, or simply put Rocky movie. But okay, he beat him to the punch with that too, surprisingly enough, and to his benefit. So again, 45 years ago on November 21st, 1976, before you most likely, before me definitely, and that's factual, I was born, Rocky comes out in theaters. There's a whole backstory, a whole back fucking build up to before the movie even became a thing in actuality. Something you're holding in your hand like a fucking baby. Or like I would that plant if I would bother to water it as much as it probably needs to. But then again, it's bamboo, I think it's like once a week. So it's still alive. It's got some yellow petals or leaves or stems on it too, but it's still kicking and living. I've had that for over some years now. It's from The Office. It's kind of like, I'd say at this point, like Snoop Dogg or like a big household name like that, where who doesn't fucking know, pretty much of all ages, Rocky, or familiar with Rocky. Hey yo, Rocky Balboa, that's tired. Sylvester Stallone immediately associated with Rocky. You know, you can throw in Rambo as well too. And what's the other character he does? What was it? Rocky, Rambo, and there was another one I'm forgetting right now. I can't remember, to be honest, but I think it's closely associated with Rambo as well, and besides Rocky, I forget who else. But Rocky and Sylvester Stallone go hand in hand. You kind of expect him to talk like Rocky the whole time in real life, but then he actually has like, you know, a maybe not like intellectual super genius way of talking, but it's still much more clear compared to Rocky in comparison. Rocky is an exaggeration, of course, of his persona per se, and a made-up character on top of that too. But you know, you catch my drift. But yes, going into in depth with Rocky. First off, as we know, Adrian, iconic, a staple, part of fucking the Rocky franchise, is immediate right hand. But even though he's a left-hand southpaw, that's his right hand. You know, proverbially speaking, Adrian, who we got? Talia Shire. Shout outs to her and chef kiss to her for having looked not that bad and gotten better with time as the movies progressed as Adrian. I mean, she wasn't bad looking in The Godfather, 1, 2, or 3 either. But I think she looked her best, and the build up, the reveal, the unveiling of Adrian, like, okay, Adrian's got something going on, was a very nice touch as we evolved with the movies too. And remember, as I did in the Rocky 3 episode, I think it was like an hour and 5 minutes into that movie where we finally get some cleavage, of all people, from Adrian. So that's a pleasant surprise there too. She's like in a nightie, a negligee, whatever. She's kind of leaning over by the bathroom sink in the hotel room, of course, with her husband Rocky. Who else is she gonna be prancing around like that with? Hopefully not Clubber. Even though, reminder, in the Rocky 3 episode, and I'm sure as you've noticed as you watch yourself, that movie itself, when Clubber is out in public, picking on, poking, prodding the bear that is Rocky, that'd be a dumb fucking sound to be like, yo, I'm a bear, I'm a grizzly bear, where the picnic basket's at, or whatever. He's poking the bear, right? Rocky, you're calling him all kinds of names, calling him a coward, a punk, I'm the underdog now, give me a chance, why won't you give the real black man a chance and all that too? No, smartly enough to really get him to actually, take the bait and really, really, really chomp into the opportunity of trying to take a swing at the new underdog, the bully in this case, Clubber Lang. He focuses his attention on Adrian, starts sweet talking her ass, telling her how, I wonder, no, you probably wonder what it's like to be with a real man considering you're with a pussy this time around. Or, you know what, let's test the waters. It's 1985, Rocky 3 was 82. It's 1982, cuckolding ain't a big thing yet. Just imagine this in a Clubber Lang, Mr. T voice, of course. Let's really give him something to talk about and go cuckold, of all people, Rocky, the Italian style. Come on, woman, let's go cuckold your husband, or whatever. Give us a BBC action. Then he gets pissed, then he reacts, but Adrian, whoop, silent as a church mouse. Not a word spoken, no reaction on her face, which I would lead to conclude Adrian was strongly considering, perhaps, the open invite courtesy of Clubber, but of course she's trying to be a lady, a damsel, and not accept openly. But then she's like, what if we were in the age of texting, or some way, somehow, he had a direct line to Adrian, that Clubber Lang fella. Maybe, just maybe, she would have taken the bait, or at least been curious enough to go see him in his fucking apartment, and most likely he was living in like a sweatshop or like a warehouse somewhere too. It's like, hey woman, you know about BBC? It's like, no, what's that? It's like, I'll show you. Zip, bump, just plop his old fucking black cock on her forehead. And then, oh God, how am I going to explain to my husband I have a black eye from your big, massive black penis? Club, I told you, be careful swinging that thing around. Like, what you want me to do, woman? I ain't got no comment on. What you want me to do, woman? And all that, too. That's Rocky 3 talk. We had plenty of fun with that episode, too. But now, primarily, Rocky 1. Talia Shire, back to the main fucking point. Talia Shire originally was not supposed to be Adrian. Of all people, there was going to be supposedly Beth Midler, which I wouldn't have liked as a choice. I don't hate Beth Midler. It's not that at all. I kind of like her. I respect her as an actress. She's obviously done her fucking thing. There was that one annoying movie she did with, I don't know who the other lady was, but we were forced to watch it back when I was in school. I want to say it was like 92, 93. I think it was called Beaches. A couple of bitches on the beach, otherwise I was a joke when we had to watch it back in middle school again, but I think the movie was legit called Beaches, with Beth Midler and whoever else it was, about some two, I'm assuming not lesbians, that were just like two women besties that hung out on the beach a lot, or one was dying and wanted to die on the beach, and then Beth Midler had to take the dying friend to I forget which one was dying, but either or. Beaches, it was really fucking boring. It was so long. I think it might have been like an hour and 30 or something like that, but it dragged on forever, like one of those hour and a half movies, talking about Beaches, not Rocky 1. Beaches, that kind of just dragged forever. It made you feel like it was 3 hours. And I think we had to watch it like in 2 classes too. And it was just so stupid and sappy, like no one there fucking cared. Like when I saw it, I was probably like 8 or 9. So Rocky 1, 2, 3, whichever would have been right up my alley to watch. But no, of course, we had a female teacher who felt, rom-com or drama-rom, whatever they call that genre, or she probably smelled the estrogen building in the young girls in the class versus the boys. I think we had more girls in the class anyway, too. So she felt, you know what, majority rules. It smells like Badusi in here, so let's go with some fucking soft shit. And we went with fucking Beaches, again, with Beth Midler. I don't hate Beth Midler. I like her as an actress. She was on Seinfeld. She did a bunch of other fucking things, too. No question there, either. But, I'm scared to think that maybe had she been Adrian, as originally planned according to what they were saying about Rocky 1 while in development, I think we would have gotten just like a female Paulie. Paulie with a fucking longer wig and maybe a bigger nose. Forgive me, that's the truth though, regarding and concerning Beth Midler, let's be honest. Maybe a great performance, but she would have been fucking hamming it up like fucking Paulie. And Rocky, both bums, both degenerates talking like street scum, and then on top of that, one with a vagina, just hamming it up with them too, with the street slang terminology, like a couple of Raekwons just like sitting on the couch, yo, God, yo, dope this, dope that. No, thank God we didn't get Beth Midler. Maybe it wouldn't have been as dramatic either, because then it was going to take it serious. He's just going to be talking like all thems. Or we could have gone, instead of either Beth Midler or Talia Shire, we could have gone a very young, a very beautiful, chef's kiss to her in her fucking youth in the prime, even now too, still, Susan Sarandon of all people. But that's going the opposite route, because Susan Sarandon would have been way too distracting. As far as like, if you really go into the story in depth like that with Rocky, it's really endearing as far as his relationship, his rock becomes Adrian, So had Adrian been as gorgeous as a young Susan Sarandon was, she wasn't gonna do a Beth Midler and try to, method act alongside Paulie and Rocky and talk with them like they would. No, Susan would have been the very dainty, very feminine, very too fucking pretty to be Adrian. So it kind of takes away from the essence of Adrian or Talia Shire. Not saying she's not beautiful. Very young, good-looking woman when she was back when. But Susan was just a fucking knockout, a stunner. And I think she had the jugs already too, the tits. So on top of that too, Adrian's a piece of ass. She's getting fucking catcalled and fucking, where do you see my dick? All day by the fucking street hawkers or the guys on the fucking corner who are all white. Conveniently enough in Philly, they probably do it instead of Chicago, like I think they would be black, around the fucking, the dumpster fire, doing the doo-wop and the fucking street poetry and shit too. They would have been harassing her nonstop. I don't think she would have had a chance to be a fucking virgin like I can assume she was Adrian with Rocky, as per Talia Shire's we got too. Susan Sarandon would have been like North Pole, Beth Midler would have been South Pole. Talia Shire as Adrian is the clear-cut equator. Not too fucking pretty where it's not believable that she be with a fucking dumpy, bummy, idiot, slanted mouth boxer moron like Rocky. Endearing, yes, and lovable, definitely too. And then Beth Midler would have just been like one more of the boys, just with a fucking wig and a pussy, hanging with Paulie and fucking Rocky all day too, as Adrian. So thank God we didn't get that. No offense to either one. All respect due to Susan Sarandon. It's still till now holding up. I mean, gravity has not taken effect on that woman somehow, some way. But Beth Midler, much respect due to Beth Midler. She's a very talented actress and singer too, but I would have not liked it all as fucking Adrian. And that would have meant the franchise would never became a franchise. It probably would have stayed at Rocky 1. Because then you would think you're just watching a bunch of fucking goons. One just happens to be a woman walking around all day. Yo, you bum, you fucking prick, you stupid idiot, whatever too. I wouldn't have liked it. So thank God we got fucking Talia Shire. Lovely woman, played a role great. What was it? My friend Rhino, who was on here to guest star with me on a couple episodes, I think Rocky 5 and Godfather 3 Coda, made that wonderful observation of Talia Shire does have the honor of 1 year alone, 1990, being in 2 of the worst movies of each respective franchise. Rocky 5, of course, 1990, and then Godfather 3, 1990. Which one of them was worse? Ooh, that might be an episode in itself. I'd really have to go in depth and tear those two apart, because I didn't like either or like that. I wouldn't have said either or is the worst movie of those. Maybe those two were the worst of that year, if I remember correctly. But of they're definitely the worst of each of their respective franchises. But to see which one of them head to head, button heads, was the worst of each. I'm gonna fucking keep a tab on that mental note. Also, there was a fun fact that Sylvester Stallone shared in the live interview he had before he debuted, world premiered, whatever, Rocky vs. Drago, the director's cut version of Rocky IV, in which he shared that, quote, "I couldn't live with myself knowing I gave it away for someone else to do," referring to Rocky. As I just mentioned before, he had the story, he came up with it for Rocky himself, loosely inspired off a fight that Muhammad Ali had with someone the year before, 1975-ish, where everyone kind of wrote off the underdog that was going up against Muhammad Ali. I wish I remember the guy's name. But he actually went the distance, per se, with Muhammad Ali, the actual physical, literal, and rest in peace champion of the time, of the world, heavyweight, of course. And he got loosely inspired by it, but then I think there's something like Stallone would never fully acknowledge that he got inspired by it, but loosely, pretty much along those reins. That's where we got Rocky from. Comes up with it. Studio likes it. They want to take it from him. They want to buy it off of him and give it to, as I mentioned again, Robert Redford, James Caan, a couple other guys too, top leading men of the time, to play Rocky. He's like, no, you got to have me do it or you can't have my movie. Whatever. He's stubborn. He won't let up. Finally, they give in. Shoestring budget. They say, you know what? You're going to, at your own risk, you got to film when you get the chance to film. We're going to give you this much budget, just under $1 million, which at the time for 76, I wouldn't say that was that bad. But everything working against him as far as, and especially he really didn't want to be the leading man because he did the porn. He's an unknown whatever otherwise too, as we established already. And confirmed fact, 1976, the movie wins the best fucking film of the year, beating out other shit that was heralded or other shit that was, kind of like a shoe-in with established actors to win the Oscar. But they didn't. He won it. And that's crazy. Like, his whole story before leading into Rocky is amazing, and it's actually really inspiring as a creator, as whoever the fuck you may be on this planet. I recommend you YouTube it, or I don't know if that pre-interview before Rocky vs. Drago is out anywhere. Hopefully it's on, I don't know if you rent it on Amazon Prime, it's there included, because I went to go see it live that one night only, Thursday, November 11th, that it premiered in theaters. So you get to see the live interview right before the movie, but yeah, that's besides the point, right? And also, another fun fact I guess we'll touch on more in depth once we get to it is the ending. According to, I forget where I got this from, but someone I think that either worked on the movie, something like that of sorts. One of the directors might have been actually said that. But they wanted to make the movie, it seemed like based off the budget, not believing in Rocky, not believing in Sylvester Stallone more specifically as Rocky, they kind of wanted to write this movie off as a, let's try our luck. Who knows what can happen, but most likely this is going to fucking bomb. No one knows this guy. No one cares about this guy. Fuck it. We bought it. Let's just make it happen. Let's try to make it as good as possible. So they do, with the original intent in mind to make it much more depressing than what it was. There's a couple of changes though. Originally, spoilers by the way, you fucking idiot, if you haven't watched Rocky, you've only had 45 years to do so. I didn't mean to call you a fucking idiot. I'm just saying, don't be a baby, and if you know me by now, you know my shtick. Then spoilers are, as of right fucking now, the ending of Rocky, as we all know it to be, is he goes the distance with the world heavyweight champion, Apollo Creed. After Apollo Creed says, you know what, I'm picking you because you got a funny name and because you're a local in Philly and Italian, so I'm going to beat the shit out of you to make it known that the black man is superior, etc., etc., kind of like a Kanye West, of boxing, 30, 40 years early, before I think he was born. No, if Kanye's like 44, 45, so that means he was born after Rocky. So that means, yeah, Rocky did inspire loosely Kanye West with the demeanor and the attitude, the braggadocioness of Apollo Creed. Allegedly, I'm just throwing it out there. But still, Apollo is that kind of energy the whole time. Rocky's able to go the distance. He doesn't win the fucking championship, but he's happy with himself for having been able to go that long with the champion, the best fighter in the world. Now, originally, one version, or what they wanted as far as confirming they just wanted to do one and done, was have him win the title. That's the end of the movie. That's it. Everybody goes home happy. Hopefully they watched and enjoyed a movie that they felt was good or great, before leading up to the ending. Stallone completely nixed it and said, fuck that. No. He can't win the title. We're going to make this dramatic because, as he said on his daughter's podcast on Wax with, I forget their names, but he's got like 3 daughters and 2 of them host a podcast together, and got him for like their 50th episode with an in-depth interview. And he said himself, Rocky is not a boxing movie. If he ever hears someone else call Rocky a boxing movie to his face, he will knock their fucking head off, pretty much. It's a drama. Heavily involving sports and or boxing, but it's a drama. And it absolutely is. We'll establish that too once we get into the review in depth for Rocky 1. But he did say, yeah, absolutely not. He can't win the title. We got to make this dramatic and fucking gut-wrenching. Which they got away with. As far as, again, him not winning the title. He goes the distance. He makes it to the final 15th round with Apollo Creed. That's that. He don't win the title. He goes back to being good old Rock from the block. Another ending, though, however, that they wanted to go with, or apparently was shot, that we did not get in comparison to what I just described to you. He wins. He goes home. That's it. End of the story. He lives to see another day, but he knows now he could have taken his head off if he really tried that much harder or believed in himself that much more. No. Instead, we would have kept the same thing. He still loses. Apollo still wins by decision because no one gets knocked out. Apollo wins by decision. But then they cut away to Adrian, still in the back. Rocky makes his way out of the ring to the back to find Adrian. They hug it out. They dap each other up. I don't know what the fuck they do at this point because he's so beat up and fucking mashed up. Like mincemeat of his fucking face is all that's left. This ending would have meant it goes them together out the back door. Really dusty, really cold. It's November in Philly, so of course that makes sense. Camera panning to the ground, focusing only on their feet as they walk out and walk back out to the mean streets of Philly from the stadium on their way back home to their fucking little studio apartment with, roaches and rats, and I'm sure a couple of turtles too that been long dead by now too. Cuff and Link, his fucking turtles he named. Which really would have sealed the deal as far as it being the times, the 70s, more dramatic, more kind of serious adult pieces, and not as inspiring or as hopeful as the ending we got, which it still doesn't, if you watch it alone, Rocky 1, I would say it still doesn't give you the vibes or the feels of we're leaving this open like this for a sequel. It's kind of like he didn't win. He came so close. It speaks of the human spirit really wanting something that bad they can get that close to it or just, come within a cunt's hair of glory and shit. But he comes away with it, or he comes away from it having been a champion of himself. Inside, at least, he can celebrate like he won the World Heavyweight Championship because he took the champion to the distance. He almost beat the champion of the world without being a professional fighter himself, etc., etc. But instead, they went with the ending we got, unbeknownst to them, sets it up for, 4 years later, 1979, with Rocky 2. And then the rest is history as far as the franchise is concerned. Oh, yeah. That's Rocky trivia recap. That's Rocky trivia lead up into now. We'll go into the review for Rocky 1 from 1976, November 21st. Dropped, release, out in theaters to be exact. 45 years later. Brought to you by me, Who This Been Watching. I am the host. I go by the name of Who This, at Who This Is One here on Instagram, Twitter, wherever else you gotta fucking get me from. Audio version, podcasting platform of your choosing, as well as a YouTube version. youtube.com/whothisis1. Thanks for coming through. I appreciate you. And now without further ado, the review and fucking recap of the movie itself, Rocky. Alright. If you're not familiar with the Rocky franchise by any chance too, also, read up on it in Wikipedia. They do a pretty good nutshell version of it. Watch the movie too and see if you agree with the following as per what I'm going to share on my notes and views on Rocky 1. And if you don't, well, kiss my ass. This is my fucking show. But if you're here to agree and or argue, I'm kidding. You just feel free to drop in the comments, chime in. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not here to argue with nobody. I'm just here to present to you my point of view, my ways, the way my eyeballs interpreted fucking Rocky 1. So again, here we go. Alright. So at least the opening of the movie, not like other movies do nowadays or they've been doing forever, they open right away with a fight. It's him, Rocky, versus Spider Rico. I'm assuming in a very rundown, dusty, musky, smelling church in Philly, of course. What do you call those things? Like the Golden Gloves or whatever. I forget if they're held in churches or whatnot, the Golden Gloves, but it might be just that. I don't know, to be honest. Opens up with the fight. Rocky versus Spider Rico. Spider Rico, we get name dropped a couple times throughout the fucking movie. And we get a look at him, and he looks Puerto Rican, so I guess Spider Rico, representing for Puerto Rico, maybe that makes sense. I don't know. And I don't know how the Puerto Rican population is concerning Philly, but I'm assuming New York ain't too far. Puerto Ricans like to explore and roam and plant their seeds wherever they may be, so Philly might not have been too off limits for the Puerto Ricans, even in the 70s. As far as the fight's concerned, Rocky is literally taking punches to the face. He's not defending himself. He's not putting his hands up or arms up. He's barely throwing a punch. He's like barely getting any shit in. He's just kind of there like a walking, talking, breathing punching bag for Spider Rico in this case. So when he goes into the corner, he gets told, courtesy of the fucking guy in his corner, giving him water, the towel, some little advice if he could pepper that in too. Rocky ain't hearing it. He's just like, water, towel, whatever. The guy's trying to taunt them, and at some point the guy does at least get in, you're waltzing or you're dancing around, stop fighting like a bum. Which, for some reason, bum, B-U-M, is like the trigger word for Rocky. Rocky 1, 2, 3, all the fucking Rocky embodiments of. That's like his trigger word. That's like if you call a black person the N-word, you call Rocky a bum, he's ready to punch your head off. And oddly enough, I don't know why bum's the word of choice, but okay, that works for him. Or maybe it just rings too true to like his style in the fight itself too, because he is in there lazy, he don't give a shit, obviously. He's kind of just like there, I don't know, hanging out if anything. Oh, I just happen to get paid too for like hanging out and pretending to be a boxer. Sign me the fuck up, whatever. But he's in there half-assing it. Spider Rico picks up on that after they fucking get back in another round. And apparently he's fed up too, the Spider Rico character, so he grabs him and headbutts him, with intent. Only then, when he gets clear, only then when he gets clear blows to the face or the head, is when Rocky reacts, just like he called him a bum, with the headbutt. He's like, yo, headbutt, bum, head bum. Hey, you trying to insult my intelligence? And then he fucking wakes up finally and starts beating and pounding on Spider Rico. Even though Spider Rico provoked it, but still, finally, it's like the wake-up call. It's like cracking open that fucking bottle of Folgers, making the fucking Folger crystals in the coffee, liquid magic, and then he magically wakes up all of a sudden out of nowhere. So it's beating on him, and only then, just again, spazzes, pounding on him too, all that shit. He's busted open because of the headbutt, and all that build-up animosity, getting headbutted, getting busted open, getting called a bum 3-4 times in a row by some lady in the fucking audience. As soon as he steps out of the ring, when the fight is done and he's declared the winner, she says repeatedly to him, I'm assuming she might have been a crackhead or like a meth head or whatever they were doing in 1976. You bum, you bum, you bum, you bum, or whatever. And he even goes one more time, like, wait, what'd you say? He's like, you bum! Again, because he's bumming a cigarette off a guy in the front row too. Maybe she meant that. Maybe she just wanted a bum or a drag or a pull off the cigarette, the Lucy he copped from the guy in the front row. I don't know, to be honest, but 4 times to be called a bum like that in a row so aggressively by obviously a drug addict of sorts would be offending even to me, a dopey looking fucking half-ass boxer with no heart, no spirit, no balls, as this Rocky early on is in Rocky 1. So, all that shit he has to go through just to make it to the fucking locker room, and he's lucky to fucking get a free cigarette off the guy in the front row, the fat fuck who's dying slowly. If it ain't obesity, if it ain't high cholesterol, if it ain't diabetes, it's definitely going to be fucking carcinogens building because of, oh yeah, smoking, right? That puts up with all that shit just, and oh yeah, and Spider Rico calling him lucky for having won the fight too, just to make $40.55. After taxes, mind you, because of course the guy that goes to the back to fucking pay off him and Spider Rico emphasizes that the tax, at the fucking trainer fee, at the corner guy, whatever too. 40.55 is your take home as the winner, and maybe you got another fight in a week or two. I'll let you know, whatever. Shout outs to Beta Barbs with a Z for joining the live too. Appreciate you, lady and ma'am. That's crazy to do all that shit, to endure all that back when too, when you gotta wait like, what was he told, like 20-25 minutes to wait for the doctor to come see him to like patch the little fucking open gash he's got over his eye, courtesy of Spider Rico, that idiot. But he's gotta go through that. We cut to fucking him, we assume took a shower, changed his clothes, or hopefully at least his underwear if he can afford new underwear to change into. He goes to the pet shop, where, of course, it's iconic at this point. The pet shop across the street from Mickey's gym, which he'll travel to later on, and we'll be able to see later on. Here's where we get our first glimpse of Adrian and Rocky interacting. Apparently, he's there every day. He's not so much doing it to check her out, but then while she's there, hey, you know what? Yo, let me flirt a little bit with the pretty girl who wears like 3 sweaters and a big trench coat just to work in the pet shop. Maybe she's got allergies. Maybe she's a hypothermic. I don't know. We'll find out, hopefully, wink wink, later on. So he does that. He goes in. He's always like making jokes and shit. The pet shop, though. The pet shop, I haven't been to one in the longest time or near one. I don't think there's any here, actually. Yeah, no, there's none here on Queens Boulevard. Like all of Queens Boulevard. Like going from like Long Island City to like Forest Hills, Jamaica, Union Turnpike. It's a long stretch of fucking walking. Not one pet shop, which is, you know, sad. But I love pet shops. I love walking by pet shops. I like, you know, tapping on the glass as much as they tell you not to, and like looking at the puppies and the dogs, even the cats. As much as I don't like cats, I don't hate cats. I'm just really allergic to them. I don't even play with the cats. You know, or actually, you know, there is a pet shop nearby, but what was that? What's that big brand one, like PetSmart or whatever, or some shit? They don't have the ones, you know, the stars of the show. They don't got the dogs or the cats or nothing. They got like, you know, rats and grasshoppers and bullshit like that. I'm not there to fucking tap the glass for a grasshopper. I'll be fucking, that grasshopper's lucky I don't fucking, you know, crush his head just for making too much noise at night with their whatever. He's doing his thing. He's walking. He runs into the fucking doo-wop group of fucking white guys, conveniently enough. Ain't doing nothing but doo-wopping. Catches up with them. Apparently everybody's cool with Rocky because Rocky loves being cool with everybody. Takes a drag off a fucking cigarette. He's fucking taking a swig of a beer. Fucking, you know, just kept it moving. That's a good thing. Admirable. Okay, you just came from a fight. You're fucking tired. Your body's sore or whatever too. Makes it all the way back home after taking a swig from an open fucking bottle of liquor. Who knows who's had their lips, and God knows what their lips have been doing besides sucking on that bottle of whatever fuck they got going on there too. He's there all up in there taking one big swig just to make it back home to drink anyway. You could have fucking saved yourself the possible whatever transmitted disease these fucking scums, these bums on the corner got, most likely because they're hanging around dumpster fires all day and all night, doo-wopping and singing. And while it does sound nice, they got some great sounding voices and shit too. And they're in harmony, thank God. So maybe that's who inspired Boys to Men. You never know, because it is Philly. You know, Motown Philly swing and shit. He goes back home to drink a beer anyway. Which I would think, you know what, if you got it at home, why not just wait to get the home if I can do it there? But whatever, that's Rocky logic. He does that, cracks open his fucking beer, he feeds his turtles, and the goldfish. And the goldfish. There's a moment he takes a childhood picture of his that's stuck on his mirror, where I'm sure he checks his hair, because it's the 70s, a lot of fucking hairs. You can see right now, a lot of fucking luscious, glorious head full of hair. He's got a check on too. Sees the picture of himself as a kid. I think it's legit him actually as a kid too. So he takes it and probably reminisces on where he's at in his life currently. We don't know just yet that besides boxing, or we think, oh, he just wants to be a boxer, but maybe he's just like getting older, he's tired, whatever too. Maybe he's just like uninspired. We don't know yet of what's to come when we see later on he's got another side job besides boxing, or trying to box as best as he can. So, looking at the picture, it is kind of like, damn. I'm sure we've done that at some point in our lives, if we're not really content with where we are, or we're at a dark point in our lives too, looking at the younger me like, I wish I could go back to those days. I wish I could go back to those days. But my mom would make me a bowl of mac and cheese, and all I ever had to do was punch the air, because I couldn't afford a bag back then. But then we go into him back at the pet shop. He's trying to get some more turtle feed for his turtles, Cuff and Link. Haha, oddly enough named. Of course, Rocky would do that, with the intent really of just fucking making another joke for Adrian to laugh at. Or at least in her case, she's so fucking shy and nervous, barely smirk, or barely like a stiff grin, and like one cheek kind of goes up a smidge. No, unresponsive. Like I'm making jokes for a fucking corpse at this point. Unless I'm really ripping into like political, social commentary on some Dave Chappelle shit, the corpse is gonna remain dead. Or maybe just let out a fart to know, oh yeah, I'm dead, but I still got fumes going on, and that was just a signal to let you know, boop. That was kind of funny. But Adrian's giving him no action, or at least she's too shy to do so. That's what we fucking thought. And I thought this joke was funny too, because he goes in with the excuse and or the joke of, yo, you need to give me some better turtle feed, because the one you sold me at the time had more moss than flies. And when the turtles eat the moss, they get stuck in their throats, and next thing you know, I gotta smack them on the back of the shell, and guess what? I give them shell shock. A cue the LOL button, whatever too. I thought it was charming. I thought it was actually kind of funny too. Not hilarious, but it's kind of like enough to break the ice, or like, bitch, give me something. Break the ice. I kind of chipped at least the surface. Give me something with that shit. That wasn't too bad. But she's not doing nothing. She's not buying into it, or at least there's an other lady at the pet shop too. She's just like trying to give no action, no signals of life. But it also proves, and as we'll see later on in every version of Rocky pretty much, is Rocky not like the, I wouldn't say perfect man in the sense of maybe looks, although a young Sylvester Stallone, let's be honest, not a bad looking guy at all. But energy, just behavior wise, endearing wise, isn't Rocky in like the top 5, maybe top 10 male characters that you'd want, speaking to the females out there, as your husband ideally, or someone in your life period? Because throughout the whole franchise, as much as it would make sense because he gets super famous and rich, popular, coveted, all that shit too, and he's still Rocky the whole time as far as charming and, relatable is concerned, he would cheat at some point eventually. I mean, the whole creation of Creed 1 and 2 starring Michael B. Jordan, is based off Apollo, who was an egomaniac, a very talented, skilled boxer, who somehow fucking dies in 2 rounds. No, 1.5 round Rocky 4 versus Drago, versus Rocky, who's like half his fucking size compared to Apollo. Went the whole distance and beat his ass on top of that too. But Rocky movie logic. Apollo cheats on his fucking wife. The wife that's been there from fight 1 to support him, that's been there during fight 2 to support him, that's been him with there, that's been with him there for fight 3, up Rocky 3, when he was training Rock to go on against another black, much more aggressive man, and still helped him out and was still there for him. He found time to cheat, and he did cheat. That's why fucking Adonis Creed exists. How does Rocky never cheat and stay loyal like a fucking dog, like Butkus? I don't know, it's beyond me. It does make sense with his character and demeanor, but it is surprising enough that he would stay fucking loyal. Never cheat on Adrian, never fucking stray, never even look at another woman either too. But then again, we don't get those behind the scenes, not behind the scenes, like much more in-depth look of Rocky beyond the boxing, the drama related to the boxing, and his immediate inner circle. So who the fuck knows? Yo, keep it on the low. I don't want Adrian knowing that you've been screaming my name. Or if you gotta scream my name, you make believe you were in a car and you just hit a rocky road. Wink, wink. Something like that. But I would think that just proves Rocky's one of the most endearing guys ever in fucking... It's hard to hate him. And he never becomes a bad guy, never becomes a heel, never like turns or nothing either too. He stays the way he is. Because further proof of that is that, of course, the jokes he makes with Adrian are mostly dad jokes, but they're endearing. Some of them are actually funny too as we move along with the franchise. And or also when we get to find out that besides being a boxer, wait a second, you're a fucking money collector? You work for the mob? You're collecting fucking unsettled debts for the mob, for the local mobster guy in your Philly neighborhood too? He's got to go down to the fucking docks, shake down a guy for money owed. He's working a forklift. He insists that he doesn't have the full 200. He's only got like 160 or 50, whatever. Gives him that much. The guy's shaking. He's literally offering him his jacket, and Rocky's like, no, keep that. I don't need that. Make sure when I come back, it's when you got it all. Whatever. He goes to his fucking boss, Gazzo, or I thought at first he was saying Gonzo, but I had to read the captions that said Gazzo, Gazzo. Thank God. But the guy does have a fairly big nose, but not Gonzo big like honk honk, whatever. So he has to go back to his fucking boss, and the boss is obviously upset because this guy shows Rocky he don't have the heart to be a bad guy or a goon or thug like that and break thumbs as he was ordered to by his boss, the mob boss of the neighborhood. So he sits him down. Oh, wait, does he sit him down? No. No, I forgot. No, he doesn't sit him down. I think they're like standing by the railroad or something like that too. And he says, "When you don't do what I tell you, you make me look bad and or weak. I can't afford to do that. So you need to start breaking thumbs, or we're gonna have to fucking part ways." Basically, Rocky needs a job. He's too lazy to fucking work otherwise. He's very poorly educated to find work otherwise. So he's got to keep working as a goon to support his fucking hobby, which he apparently to this point really doesn't give a shit about, boxing, as a part-time boxer. He doesn't do what he's told. And on top of that, we confirm most likely what was kind of obvious from Jump Street is that he's probably dyslexic or very poorly educated, because he doesn't even know how to spell something simple as Del Rio, with the infamous and very funny line, "How you spell Del Rio?" When fucking Gazzo gives him the name of someone else he's got to follow, he's got to pin down to fucking get some money from. And one more thing funny enough about any interaction he has with Gazzo, at least in Rocky 1, is that the driver assigned to drive Gazzo around, the boss, is a dick to Rock all the time. He, pokes fun at him for being stupid or like, kind of sluggish or, brutish in his fucking manners too. He's very lucky because he's got a pedophile mustache at best, or like a push broom handle mustache too. I don't know what the fuck you even call that shit, but it's the 70s, so I guess everybody was obsessed with being mustached, gentleman-esque nature individuals or such. But he's got a weird-ass mustache, and it's fucking bright blonde. He looks like Hulk Hogan with a fucking driving cat on. So, of all people, for him to speak, it's kind of insulting, but alright. He loves to poke fun at Rock. But okay. Rock gets pissed off at him too at some point too, after he tells him, about the Del Rio thing, and he's still asking about fucking what to do. And he tells him at one point too, he says, I should have broke your thumbs. Whatever, as he drives off, of course, the driver, because that's when he knows how to drive. If he had to get out the car and actually face Rocky, who knows how to throw hands at least, I'm sure a different story. But whatever, we digress. Alright, so Rocky goes back to fucking Mickey's gym. Finally, our first glance in depth at Mickey's gym. Of course, Rocky, as he makes his way up the stairs to the locker room and shit, of course, he'd have to write his fucking locker combination number on a little slip of paper underneath his fucking fedora. Just to take off the fedora, take out the little slip of paper. Yo, what's my locker combination? He does it. Not working. Try number 2, still ain't good. Number 3, still ain't good. He's got to grab a fire extinguisher to bust the fucking combo off just to see that someone else's gear, full entirely, is in his locker. The locker he's had for 6 years and such. So he's, of course, visibly upset. He asks the little fucking trainer guy, hey, where's Mickey? He goes to fucking see Mickey. Mickey's in the middle of training fucking this other guy. Shout outs to Burgess Meredith, rest in peace also, for playing Mickey. I don't think anybody else could have ever been Mickey. I wish I would have done research. I'm sure there was different candidates, but none better than fucking the Mickey we've always known and loved. Beautifully played. Even up to when he fucking dies in 3. Beautifully played by fucking Burgess Meredith. We get an introduction to fucking Mickey, who's training the guy, conveniently enough, who took over Rocky's locker. And he's impressed. He's fucking thoroughly involved there too. Mickey has hilarious lines throughout the fucking movies, especially 1 and 2. Even in 3, but like 1 and 2 are the ones where it gets really fucking epic sometimes with his fucking lines. His bars at Rocky. Rocky goes up to him. He's asking him what's good. Hey, Mickey. And of course, Mickey in his fucking pleasant sunshine demeanor at all times is like, the hell do you want? And he calls him a tomato for some reason, even though Rocky's not red, and it doesn't look like he tans very well either, or at least turns red when he's under the sun too much. He calls him a tomato, and he does tell him straight up, listen, you got heart, but you fight like a goddamn ape. As far as why he took his locker from him, because he's not seeing anything coming from him. No promise, he's just kind of there. Clock in, clock out, I'm boxing, oh yeah, I'm boxing, hey yo, whatever. Calls it a night, never wants nothing real or serious. And he knows already, Mickey knows already, I'm sure word travels, that Rocky is a fucking bill collector for the streets, working for Gazzo. So he really doesn't like that he's got dirty money involved, and or gets his hands dirty when he's not literally in his, gloves, getting his hands dirty and sweaty from, physical activity and or boxing, where there's more honor in that. And he adds on top of that, to add the fucking insult, Spider Rico, or fighting Spider Ricos for bums, and he's probably been fighting them forever, so who the fuck cares about Spider Rico? There's some, I wouldn't say racist moments, but those were the times, I'd like to say. So it makes sense that kind of dialogue would be there in the movie, even so. Not necessarily to like put down anybody or be racist, but that's how they talk, especially in Philly still. It's like still kind of racist-y out there, as per what I've heard. So he's still he goes back to the bar. They're in the same bar, but he goes to the bar to sit with the bartender and stay with him. Apollo Creed, our introduction to Apollo Creed's on TV. He's talking all this shit about being fucking made in America, only in America. He's gonna fight this one guy on fucking Thanksgiving. It's for the sake of a black man beating on a white man too, so witness the glory and shit. The bartender, please don't quote me as having said this myself willingly. This is just paraphrasing from the movie or quoting directly from the movie. He calls Apollo Creed a JIG clown. That's all he is, according to the bartender. Rocky's tapped into his cultural intelligence. And as soon as he hears the bartender, who's obviously another white, red-faced guy, because he's drunk too and stays all day at the bar, I would assume and hope he owns, call Apollo Creed a JIG clown, he says, why has he got to be a clown? He's the world champion. And, they start going back and forth about, well, I called him that because he's black and loud and proud, whatever, too. And then Rock asks the obvious question to the bartender. It's like, well, what have you accomplished with your life besides owning the bar and having free drinks all day because you have to buy and supply and shit for the neighborhood? He tells him, and actually, funny enough, he actually takes him to take a shot. In that case, and then the bartender says, all right, fine, I'll take a shot, and pours himself a shot of fucking whiskey, vodka, whatever, too, and takes it. Which shows, as intelligent as the bartender hopes to be, he's really not. He's just at best a local neighborhood dive bar bartender. Which again, hopefully he owns. He's not just a bartender, but the owner of the bars too. Hopefully. And so now, opportunity knocks for Rocky Balboa. Specifically in the case of The opponent originally scheduled to take on Apollo Creed on Thanksgiving has mysteriously broken his hand. Had it been the thumbs, I think you could be suspicious of good old Rocky. But they said his hand, his whole hand. And Rocky won't even break no one's thumbs, even if they owe his boss $200. So, it probably wasn't Rocky anyway to begin with. So it's fine. The guy breaks his hand. Creed is left with no opponent to fight because there is no one else left to fight the champion. He kind of just ran through everybody and only has 5 weeks to find somebody to fight with. So, as far as that's concerned, and how convenient enough is this, what do you call it? I think he went through the phone book or some shit, some catalog, some brochure they had of like the local fighters. He liked the name Italian Stallion. He liked that he's a fucking local and says, you know what better way to celebrate Thanksgiving as a black man than to beat up on an Italian man, or a colonizer, Betty had said too, and have the world watch it too. So, boom, we got it. Then we cut to Gazzo, the street fucking boss, the boss of Philly. He knows Rocky, he treats him well. He hired him as a fucking goon who can't break thumbs, who isn't a good goon, but he still keeps him around because I guess, what else is he going to do besides maybe drink himself to death if I don't fucking take care of him somehow, some way. So, Gazzo knows everything that goes on in the streets, even in 1970 with no fucking cell phone, no nothing. He knows Adrian is going to be going out with Rocky because that's what Paulie set up for Rocky to do with Adrian anyway. Take her out that night for Thanksgiving. So, when he discusses and hands Rock some money, as far as treat her nice, take her out someplace nice, whatever too, the driver, the dickhead driver, the one with the porn stash, the one with the pedophile mustache, has to chime in saying, you know what, I heard she's slow. Take it to the zoo. The slow people love animals. It was a much more offensive term, but we can no longer use that terminology because it will trigger a part of the audience. But you know what I mean. But the funny thing about that interaction was Gazzo is literally in between the driver and Rocky before they start throwing hands, even though the driver is supposed to have his hands on the steering wheel and drive. Rocky's ready to choke him out or like just cave his old face in. Gazzo's in the middle like, all right, guys, I can't have you arguing here. Rock, forgive him. Some people love you miserable. It's his fucking prostate. He's in a bad mood. So that's kind of odd and too specific of a fucking excuse for something. So either it's a lie or the guy is confiding in his boss as the driver of his boss. Like, hey, boss, I'm having issues with my prostate, so I'm going to be in a bad mood. And or just, I got blue balls / I'm jealous that you're going out with Adrian and I'm not. Because, again, Adrian ain't bad looking. She's very cute. It's just underneath all them fucking layers of clothes, who can tell? Maybe he made a swing in the past at Adrian and she really wasn't giving him the time of day. So that might be it. Like, what's Rocky got that I don't got that I could have tried Adrian? And on top of that, his own boss, Gazzo, adds on that the driver is, quote unquote, nothing but a hater. Some people love to hate. Hate for no reason. So, not really the best boss, but still a good enough boss, at least a Rocky, not so much the driver. Fuck that driver. He was a dick. So then, of course, we confirm that Apollo does find Rocky in this little directory of boxes too, knows that he's named the Italian Stallion, loves it, and said, let me beat up on one of their ancestors. Christopher Columbus did it. Why not fucking do it to this one too on Thanksgiving? And at that point, it was actually, well, according to the movie, it would have been 200 years since Independence Day, July 4th, 1976 to November 20-something, Thanksgiving of 1976 also. Some months removed from the actual Independence Day, but, at least Thanksgiving, you know what I mean. But yeah, once Rocky gets to the house and he's ready to pick up Adrian for the date on Thanksgiving Thursday night, Adrian apparently had no clue, or it was all just set up by Paulie without Adrian's consent. These were the 70s, crazy things like that were going on like that. She's already cooking birds. She's underdressed. She's not ready to go out anywhere. So she's upset once he comes home and says, you know what? Rocco's here to take you out. I'm not ready. I made the bird. Paulie becomes a dick, which is the greatest of ease to him to do, and takes the bird and literally has the bird fly out the fucking back door and said, the bird's flying. What are you going to do now? Adrian throws a fucking fit. She's upset. She runs to her fucking room. Paulie says, you know what? This is perfect for you, Rocco. Go talk to her. She's like, yo, I don't want to talk to her through a wall. I just feel like a dummy. But he says, no, you're funny anyway. She likes you anyway. Just talk through the fucking wall and get her out of here. Just so you two can go out about your date. And it does work because he's endearing enough where he talks to her through the door, says a lot of sweet nothings. Yo, I really love to take you out if you don't mind. You know, Thanksgiving night, you're not doing nothing. I'm not doing nothing. The turkey flew the coop. Why not come out with me? And she comes out immediately as soon as he says, I want to take you on a date. So she's like, okay, free food. I don't have to cook pretty much. I'm in there. Why not? She's already dressed, big coat on, big glasses too. They hit the fucking ice rink. So we finally cut to when they go on the first date. He brings up, I think, the ice rink to go ice skating. So they go. The place is closed because it's Thanksgiving Thursday. Closed early that day. He's able to hit the guy off with $10 after some convincing on behalf of the guy. Like, you know, Rock wants to talk him down to 8, 7, whatever. The guy says 10. You got the thing for yourself for 10 minutes. And boy, oh boy, is he fucking cheap, because that guy was counting literally 10 minutes, announcing every minute that passed to them as they made circles in the ice rink too. Which is a very cute, endearing scene because they're getting to know each other. He's telling her about his upbringing, everything that involves him specifically. And it's real endearing, it's real cute. But he does also reveal the fact that he's left-handed and or southpaw, which is apparently very frowned upon in the world of boxing. Therefore, I guess his justification and or reason as to why he doesn't get more title shots or opportunities or professional fights, because he's got to fight with his left hand leading. Then they compare a couple of things amongst themselves, which was funny because he shares that his dad, Rocky's dad, had told him from a young age, you don't have much brain, so build your body so you can be strong and use your hands to defend yourself as a living. Wherein Adrian confesses, oh, my mother was the opposite. She said, you've got no body and no fucking face, so you need to work on your brains so you could be attracted to somebody eventually, hopefully someday, as you are. So her mom and his dad calling them both very, simple and plain, a couple of dull birds and shit. He does make the witty comment afterwards when he leaves the ice rink of, yo, we make a couple of sharp coconuts. And, the joke is coconuts are round. They're not sharp whatsoever unless you crack one open and then you impale yourself, perhaps trying to suck the coconut water out the coconut too. So you got to be careful with coconuts. But it is at least cute. He calls them both a couple of sharp coconuts. And we do get a little stat here too as well. Rocky had 64 fights in total, according to the character's backstory, in Rocky 1. So you add that in with all the title defenses he had in Rocky 3 and Rocky 4. Who knows how many fights he fucking had. But whatever. He's able to impress her and convince her enough to come to his place. His little studio apartment, which is really run down. It looks more like a boarding house that just had separate rooms and they gave it to the grown adults when they were no longer a boarding house. They go in, we get a better glimpse of Rocky's apartment, which is a real fucking dump. I was horrified, even though it was a movie, I was horrified the fact that fucking couch of his was disgusting, falling apart, dilapidated. Instead of plastic covering, or let's say, using a sheet or something that makes sense to have covered the seats, the cushions of the fucking couch. No. Instead, he uses fucking newspaper. Lays it down. It's already yellow. He probably farted on it all night. He probably pissed on it a little bit too because he forgot. He got too lazy to go to the bathroom. Invites her to sit down. And even worse on top of that, the fucking couch has... Jesus. It has like empty beer bottles tucked into the top cushion, all aligned like they were like Christmas lights. Or you would think they would light up, but no, they're just literally empty beer glasses stuck wedged in between the right behind the fucking top cushion on the sofa. I can't blame him for not sitting down there. And then on top of that too, when they do finally kiss, there's a whole little build up. Basically, she's running away, she wants to leave, she wants to tell Paulie she's over at his place or that she's alone with a man and shit too. So as she makes her way to the door, he stops her. They have a little combo. Don't leave, take your glasses off, let your hair down, whatever. I guess because he was really trying to play up to her, they start making out in the corner of his own fucking studio apartment right at the edge of the door. And slide down the walls. It's romantic. It's endearing too. Their first kiss, whatnot. And it's in the corner like it was a corner tucked away in a nightclub. Which I didn't get till now, but it wasn't like I hate that scene, but it's just, that was weird. After that, we cut to a part where Mickey gets in touch with Rocky after being told by Apollo's people that he, of all people, Rocky, has earned a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship, Apollo Creed. 5 weeks, so's all he's got. But Mickey does like to tell him that he is a goon. He is a bum. He is a scumbag for working for Gazzo, collecting money, breaking thumbs and limbs, or he's supposed to at least, for some dirty money. Rocky makes his way to the office of the people representing the promoter and Apollo Creed. As promised, as requested, he's there. He speaks to George Jurgens, I think his name was. And I forgot this entirely as far as Rocky 1's concerned. I forgot that he said no the first time around. Because he was told by Mickey that Apollo's people were looking for trained sparring partners. And Rocky was like, yo, I could do that. I could pretend to be a punching bag. I relieve my face. Goes, thinking under those premises is what they want him for. And then it's revealed by Jurgens, George Jerkoff Jurgens, that Apollo wants to fight him as his opponent within 5 weeks as the main event. And so Rocky says no the first time because he's like, I can't do it. I'm not a pro fighter. He'll kill me and shit. But once we cut to the press conference and they're sitting down as they accepted the challenge, it is clear now that Rocky has cleared $150,000 as a payday for taking the fight. Paulie, of course, is jealous because he wants nothing but freebies. And there's another endearing part with him and Adrian. They're at Paulie's house, him and Adrian talking. She walks him out the door as he's about to go, I guess, to the gym or train or whatever. And at the press conference, they were like taking jabs verbally at Rocky, like implying that he's dumb, he's like a little too simple, he's getting super lucky, he'll be lucky to be alive after the fight, etc., etc. And he plays it off like, oh, it didn't bother me because they're watching it replay again on TV so that Adrian can see the shot that Rocky gave to her while being interviewed with all the news people. He walks out the door, he's about to leave to go back to the gym, and Adrian is just there like watching him, sending him off properly. So then he says to her, yo, you know those comments they made about me in the press conference? She's like, yeah. It's like, they bothered me. So he's only human, of course, too. And it's kind of sad because it's like, Rock ain't a bad guy. Rock's like a neighborhood round the way guy that would never hurt a fucking fly pretty much. But they make fun of him. They poke and prod him. They treat him like a fucking guinea pig pretty much. But okay. From there, let's see. We went down to Gazzo comes find him, Rocky in the fucking gym, and he tells him, hey, how you doing with money? Rocky says, hey, not bad, whatever. Gazzo, out of the goodness of his dirty money heart, gives him $500 to do some training fucking expenses, run a tab and shit too. Just be ready and fucking actually prep to fight a champion. He doesn't want to take it at first, but of course he knows he needs it, so he does fucking take it. $500 free dollars. I don't see what's wrong with that either. Now we come to a part that a lot of people remember fondly because it does speak volumes to the character, the persona, and the interaction, the unspoken love between fucking Mickey and Rocky, after all. After this happens with the fucking mob guy, Gazzo, giving Rocky $500, Mickey comes to see Rocky this time at home. And apparently it's the first time ever that Mickey ever went to go visit him at home. He goes to see him just to tell him pretty much Mickey to Rocky, tells him that he got fucking freak luck with getting the Apollo match. Rocky's aware at this point. He knows it's just like a freak matter of coincidence that he's even getting a shot, let alone spoken of by the champion and told to be a challenger. But Mickey does emphasize that most likely you're not going to get a second chance at this. So if you're going to train now, you got to train hard, you're going to need a fucking manager, which is me. And he tells him, Mickey is, I wouldn't say sweet talking him, but he is trying to be, I guess, nicer in his approach to Rock, since he's the one getting tapped to fight the world champion out of nowhere, and he happens to be from his gym. Excuse me. He does tell Rock repeatedly, as he's done before, he's got heart. He fights like an animal. But he's got to take it easy. He's got to relax. He's got to be trained. He needs a manager, someone that's been there, the same road he went down, lived through it, and can pass on the knowledge to someone else too. But Rocky goes back at him and says, hey, yo, I got heart, but I ain't got no locker, huh, Mick? Which, leads to Mick having to explain, perhaps, he had to give it up to somebody who he saw potential in, or that wasn't wasting his time, which it looked like Rocky was trying to do. Mickey just wants to presumably pass on all his knowledge of his past experience, very bad experience with boxing himself, to Rock and make it easier. Rock ain't having it. Rock is upset. At some point during the convo, he just walks into his bathroom to lock himself in there, make sure Paulie knows his way out the door and not have to deal with him no more. Paulie opens the door, forgets he has his fucking hat in there, closes the door while he's still inside, and this is funny too, oddly enough, playing into the fucking sentiment of the scene. Rocky comes out the bathroom, sees that Mickey's still there, goes right back in, slams the door, minds his business to make sure again when he leaves, he can fucking step outside. Mickey does leave this time going down the stairs. Rocky, reasonably slow, explodes. He says, I needed you 10 years ago. And then, he does run back into the bathroom again like a girl, but it's alright, it happens. But he is upset clearly in that little epic speech of him punching the wall, punching the doors, like, where were you when I needed you? Where were you when I needed you too? Then Rocky caves in emotionally after Mickey's like pretty much sent with his tail between his legs, runs after him and says, hey, yo. Well, we don't get to fucking hear what he says to Mickey, but they do speak on the street. He pretty much puts his arm out to shake his hand. Mickey shakes his hand back and probably says, you know what, we're starting training officially as of now, so I'll see you in the gym. That's fine. A funny point to bring up too during the combo between Mickey and Rocky at Rocky's apartment is that instead of saying I'm going to have my face punched in, caved in, beaten, whatever too, Rocky keeps saying, I'm going to get my face kicked in. I'm going to get my face kicked off. Well, only because, in boxing you can't kick anybody. It's illegal, and you can't kick them, let alone the face or the head. So for him to keep saying instead of, again, like pounded, clubbed in the face, whacked in the face, whatever, he keeps saying, I'm going to get my face kicked in. Whatever, by the heavyweight champ. But, again, Rocky logic. So now we cut to the infamous also training scene, or montage, at least the first one, where he wakes up early. I forget the time set on the alarm clock, but it's pretty early. He gets up real early. Rocky must have a wide selection and stock of eggs because he just grabs a couple and cracks 3 or 4 into a glass and chugs that glass down. Which, by the way, that part has been parodied, has been imitated, has been paid homage to by so many different movies, cartoons, series, whatever too. The one that comes to mind actually that was really funny was from South Park. I forget what season, but I think it was Randy. Was it Kyle's dad? Like he's trained to be Rocky too. He's got the whole fucking sweatsuit outfit on in bed. He gets up super bright and early. He goes to the fridge to make the eggs in the same kind of stains and face that he made in the movie himself too. Cracks like 3-4 eggs, but then dumps them right into the frying pan. So I was making breakfast and shit. So I was munching on everything in sight. I fucking love Randy. He's hilarious. But yeah, also, this is where he starts lightly training, or we get an intro to it, and he tries to go up the Rocky stairs, as we've known him for forever, and he can barely make it there without almost passing out. And something I could relate to when I used to run a lot more when I was younger, getting these side/shooting these side/throbbing rib pains, or like, I don't know, side pains, whatever you want to call it too. But when you run too much or too fast, you start getting those shit, they start to cramp, and it's like, yeah, really inconvenient. But what do you call it? Let's see. It was just interesting. He couldn't make it up the steps. He was like huffing and puffing, barely made it to the top, and when he does make it to the top, he's like catching his breath for like a minute, which By the way, 5 weeks until your championship fight with a champion heavyweight boxer, I think you'd be in somewhat better shape, but maybe he really was just that fucking lazy. Oh yeah, so Rocky fucking meets Paulie at the meat shop where Paulie works. I don't know what position he holds, but of course he walks around with a cigar and a drink and a flask, acting like he's the big cheese, that fucking Paulie. Well, he brings him to the meat factory, another iconic part, where in the midst of Paulie being upset, it seems like he was drunk already, starts picking on Adrian and Rocky, and telling Rocky pretty much, or asking him, "Did you screw on my sister?" And I don't know. It seemed like almost he wanted to get him isolated or alone in the meat locker of all places to ask him that, so that he wouldn't have anywhere immediately to run away from, or he's gonna run into like face full of fucking meat in his face with ribs and such. But obviously Rocky denies. We don't know if that's the truth yet, so this might be one of those few times Rocky is lying. Well, he's lied before, but you know what I mean. Very white lies, very innocent, non-harmful lies. But Paulie gets mad because Rocky won't answer, or he keeps telling him, hey, no, I think Rocky called him a bum, so then that's the same word that triggers Paulie. As soon as he gets called a bum, he starts just punching and wailing on this big slab of meat right next to him. Rocky gets the idea to push him aside and take some swings at it and says, you know what, this works. I'm going to do this with my training. And it's endearing as it is too, but that's what happens in Rocky movie logic. Rocky can have no hanky-panky going on, no private alone, dick and pussy time with Adrian, which at this point is very dressed down, even though it's mostly at home, and is appreciative of the kind of man she has, so she really wants to fuck or gets horny all the time, as we see here, because she is begging for cock. She's not begging for it, but she's like tugging at his pants and like kissing him real deeply and passionately, and he has to tell her, yo, no hanky-panky. I gotta stay strong for the fight. And this is also after the fact, this is before the fact that Mickey confirms in the gym as well too, women weaken legs. That's been one of the longest lasting beliefs as far as, you know, athletes are concerned, to not have sex, not have anything going on like right before a championship game or a game that matters like that, because somehow, from what I remember, that used to mean that you coming in a woman, or just coming period, weakens your legs and makes you not as focused, not as intense, not as energetic as you would normally had you not had sex the night before. That's to be argued and or discussed, but that's what he's saying pretty much in this case. So we cut to outside where Adrian, after Rocky being told by Mickey that women weaken legs, we're surprised that Adrian's at his stoop of his, you know, luxury building with this studio apartment he's got so self-decorated. She brings him Buttkiss, the big-ass dog that's been in the pet shop the whole time, because she knows how much she loves him. He loves the dog and would die to have one, so there is one right there. Boom. Just for you. Merry Christmas, pretty much. He's enjoying it clearly, and also a fun fact is that according to legend, according to Sylvester himself, Buttkiss, the dog in the movie, was legit his dog that he had before Rocky 1 took off. It's just that he was so poor that at some point he had to sell his dog off, but promised he'd come back for him, go back for him, whatever. This apparently is the Buttkiss that we speak of, or at least named Buttkiss for the movie. I don't know if it's Buttkiss for real. But even in the credits, if you look towards the very end of the credits, like the last minute or so, even the dog gets a fucking credit. You know, credit to, what was his name again? I just said his fucking name, I forgot. Burgess Stallone. So even the dog got a fucking film credit. And I don't fucking have one yet, but again, I digress. Then we go into a mini training montage with Rock. He's running around with fucking Buttkiss, which seems to be a little inconvenient because such a big-ass dog, a strong-ass dog, could drag you like where he, she, it wants if they see a squirrel or they see something that appeals to them specifically. So that can be annoying and dangerous, especially of all things running with a big dog at the end of the leash. Now we go to a scene where the local news is called by Mickey so that Mickey can make some money off of, guess who? Rock, for free, without having to do anything and or work. So they meet inside the meat factory, to get word of and see in depth in first person Rocky's training style, which is literally beating up on meat or beating his meat, as we established with Paulie when he went to go see him too. So that's cool because it's a black lady with a big old afro and a nice furry coat. So she looks like she might have pimped some hoes instead of just waiting for a pimp to pimp them hoes. She took action and did so. So she does do that. She does the interview with Rock. They're enjoying themselves. Well, Rock does make the request to not take any cheap shots in or jabs as far as the interview is concerned. But Paulie's trying to sneak his head in, trying to get involved too, trying to ask if he can get a spot, and he can't. It's all about Rock. So they do the live news segment with Rock pounding, beating away at his fucking meat in the meat locker. And as he's doing so, guess who's watching conveniently enough? You got Apollo's fucking trainer, the bald guy. I forget his name in all honesty, and forgive me for doing so. Shout outs to InstaRick85 for joining the live. Appreciate you, sir. Apollo's trainer or boxing coach is watching live as Rocky is beating his meat in the meat locker for at least the local Philadelphia area and presumably the world to watch and witness. As far as a serious threat and the way his bloody fists are shown on TV prominently by the reporter to signify that this man is really serious about his, to the point where he's beating dead, frozen steer, cattle, whatever, meat, cows, to prove his point, that he's going to tear away, he's going to pick away at fucking Apollo. Meanwhile, while the trainer's watching this shit live at that time, Apollo's too busy worrying about, send roses to the mayor's wife, get this table reserved for me, like some really rich, bougie shit, but he's not worried at all about Rocky whatsoever. He calls him over to watch, but then fucking Apollo brushes him off. Let's see. So then now we cut back to Rocky and fucking Adrian back at, I guess, her house and or common house they share with Paulie. Minding their business, watch the TV too. But then she says to him, listen, Paulie, I know it can be difficult. I'm sorry about that. But then Rocky also adds on too, well, it is difficult because, he keeps asking me for stuff and he wants to be in Gilbert Gaza. So I can't even do that. He's going to be untrustworthy or insistent on things too. Cue perfectly enough, Paulie has come into the house. He walks in the fucking yard already, like picking up a trash can, dancing with it, dropping shit randomly too before he walks into the front door, and he gets upset. So he's like, Paulie don't need no favors. What are you doing for Paulie? He didn't do nothing. Screaming at him, screaming at her, grabs a baseball bat, starts smashing shit around, and demanding to know what the fuck they were still doing in his house as he's kicking them both out, sister and brother-in-law to be. Adrian gets upset because she has to remind him, Paulie, that she's been doing everything for him for as long as she can remember, and she deserves to have a life and also not be called a loser, because he loves going to that excuse. Oh, she's a loser, she's got nothing going on, she's a virgin at 30, and on top of that adds injury to insult by saying, what did he say? Like, oh, she's not a virgin no more. To Rock, when he has to pin him down to stop him from fucking throwing that baseball bat around. She runs to the room, he has to go after her, Rocky, and she says, you know what, do you want a roommate? And they move the fuck in, which makes total sense because that's his woman. Why the fuck not? Then we go into the very first, I'd still say epic, but not the best one, or not as perfect as Rocky 2's is. We get the training montage of him training in depth with the one-arm push-ups, everything else he's got to do, carrying the logs, and most importantly, running like a motherfucker, because at some point he's running next or beyond a fucking ship that's in the Navy Yard, and he's like jetting by. He's like jet propulsion, so fucking fast he's doing it too, where I'm pretty sure a car with a camera had to follow him to fucking pan and track his shot as he goes along, because he's really huffing and puffing, like hauling ass, like he stole something, he's fucking out there, like he's Jesse Owens snatching that gold medal, snatching that carrot, whatever he fucking prefers, out of here, just fucking blazing saddles and shit. It's amazing to watch too, because the training is intense, but the run is really fascinating as far as him next to that fucking ship. He's just like bolting, he's jetting, he's out of here, god damn. Also, a little fun fact is that when he runs through the little farmer's market, whatever in Philly, the guy, the fruit vendor guy that throws him an apple or whatever the fuck it was, in real life threw him an apple. It wasn't scripted, it wasn't included in the movie, But Sylvester liked it so much that he actually caught it first off and thought it was such a nice touch to the fucking energy or the vibe set by the training in the city. Said, you know what? We're going to keep that shit. And he kept it. There it is for fucking history forever and ever, for as long as it exists. That's for real a part in the Rocky training montage. He's finally able to get up those stairs in one shot, so it only took him about a couple of days, but finally he got the confidence to do so. As opposed to Rocky 2, where there's a crowd of kids gathering around him and jumping up and down too like jelly beans and shit because he made it up the stairs. Whoopee. He's all alone. Very bright in the fucking day, early crack of dawn. The sun's ass crack is being revealed too, and he's there, just taking in the glory of the moment. I'm also surprised at this point too, as iconic as that scene is, with him dancing on the fucking stairs, the Rocky steps as they're called, because that's eventually what a Rocky statue was, but I don't know if it was ever there on top of the stairs like they put it, or if it's always been off the side of the stairs for people to visit and make a line properly to see it, but when it comes to the movies, they move it and put it right there again. I don't know. This is like way before my time, so I wasn't even born to fucking ask otherwise. But yeah, I'm also surprised that no one on TikTok, at least, or Instagram Reels, whatever, has done like a Rocky Steps challenge. Like, you gotta go to like your nearest set of stairs and recreate the dance he does once he hits the top of the stairs. It's a nice, cool little dance. It's not completely off rhythm or sloppy, but it is like just weird. Like, okay, you climbed some stairs really fast and you did it in one shot. I gotta do it every day, 2 flights of them, when I go to Target, and you don't see me at the top of the fucking stairs just shucking and jiving and just, you know, wailing and like body rocking to Millie rocking, whatever it is at the top of the stairs. But I am surprised TikTok hasn't taken that and redone it or made it a fad or challenge too. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll be the one to plant the seed and see that grow. Hey, yo, why not? Here we go into an endearing scene afterwards, where Rocky can't sleep. He's already with Adrian in his home, in his studio, whatever, but he has to step out because he can't sleep. He's too worried about the fight. It's like coming up, as it's implied. Makes his way down to the fucking stadium where they're going to have the fight, and you see these large-than-life size posters of both Apollo and Rocky. The ring's really decorated nicely for, like, you know, 1776 era vibes, all that shit too. But the one thing that stands out to Rocky, and it would be pretty obvious if it was anyone else's case too, unfortunately, is that his poster, his rendering on that gigantic poster is wrong, because he'll be fighting in white shorts with a red stripe versus red shorts with a white stripe on the side too. And the promoter comes out too, as before he's able to point that out to him. Once the promoter's out, Rock is able to do so, and he's like, hey, yo, I got white shorts and a red stripe on the side of my pants. And the promoter is smart enough to not be insulting or calling him a fucking idiot or nothing too either, or why don't you fucking tell me? He's like, does it matter? Because he know he's got money in this fight. Rocky and nobody versus fucking Apollo. Everybody's everybody. Heavyweight champion of everybody's in boxing. And, what do you call it? So, comes back home after that little encounter, and the manager tells him, hey, you know what? Just go home. You got this fight tomorrow. You know, don't be nervous. He goes back home, Rock, lays in bed, and he just keeps telling Adrian, he confesses, I don't think I could do this. So he can't win, according to him. But he does go into his lovely explanation otherwise of, even though I won't win, I want to, and I want to prove to myself that I can go the distance, meaning I can go the full 15 rounds with the heavyweight champion, and even if I don't win or I lose still somehow, I'll have won as far as patching up old wounds and shit. I'll win because, well, I tried, and I tried my best, and who knows what can happen, even if it's most likely what's going to happen is I'm going to fucking die and or lose badly, but I might as well try. I can't live, kind of like how we phrased that thing, like I said before in the pre-interview leading up to Rocky vs. Drago. I can't live myself knowing that I let someone else do me, or something like that. So he's going to go out there and at least try to win. Well, that's the whole point of the fucking training montage, so why wouldn't he try to win at least for us? Goddamn, for the viewing public. And he does emphasize, he stresses again, it's more about, which I love, that saying, that phrase. It's all about going the distance and just surviving the fight so he can prove he's not another bum from the neighborhood. So apparently Paulie was able to make some money off of Rocky after all, $3,000 to be exact, and got himself a nice new suit, shoes, and a fucking pricey escort that was $250 to come into the fight, but at the expense of giving Rocky a free gift, which is only a fucking really heavy, oversized, baggy robe, a bathroom robe at best, with Italian Stallion right above the ass cheeks, but also on the back is this huge fucking promotional ad for, what was it, Shamrock's Meats on the back. Everyone does notice it too, but I would dare say it's a nice looking robe. As gigantic and as baggy as it looks, I'd say it's a nice looking robe after all, at the end of the day. Let's see. So we're at the fight. We're at the point now where, of all people, to introduce the fight and or before it starts, we get introduced to Smoking Joe Frazier, which he comes out, a Philly native himself. Let me cut this part. So after a brief introduction and a hello from Joe Frazier, of all people, Smoking Joe Frazier, we get to the fight itself. Now, I don't love the fight only because it's the first one, as far as the franchise is concerned, that it's too obvious sometimes that they choreograph their shit. Obviously they have to, they're not really going to hit each other, but so much so where they've got angles, they got camera shots set up where you can clearly see a fist completely missing the face by like at least a foot. No one's in danger, that's great, but also no one's being believable, which is not so great. So the fight itself isn't fantastic. It is, I'm assuming for the times, it was great to watch, it was exciting, it was motivating, it still is. I don't know if it might have been the version I watched here on HBO Max, which they got, by the way, if you have HBO Max or Hulu with HBO add-on, you get all the Rocky movies lumped in with HBO. So check that out. So I don't know if it's a version that HBO puts out that has the sound like weak as far as the blows, sound effects, all that too for this movie. But no one's hitting anything that seems feasible, that seems engaging like that too. But we are building up to round 1, round 2, round 3. Boom, 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 boom. Rocky's making good on not so much his promise, but on his potential as far as being able to go the distance, and slowly but surely making it to round 15. Where again, in the midst of the fucking fight, there's some great shots, there's some great angles, but not all of them work, because a bad angle gives you a bad shot every time. There are angles where you can see either or missing each other by like 3 feet and not being able to do like something, pan the camera back, cut to this camera instead to show that angle. To make it look convincing enough is beyond me. But again, Rocky movie logic is what we're dealing with here. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, this was and this is a spoilers, as they all are. Every episode is a spoiler-heavy edition of Rocky. So once we finish the fight, Rocky ain't concerned with shit besides Adrian. After getting fucking walloped, after getting his face turned into mincemeat, after demanding that, I don't know if it was so gross back when, but I know it's been pointed out a lot, Mickey, cut me, because Apollo kept beating on his face so much that he lumped up one of his eyes. It had to be cut and drained full of blood. He asked for that. I don't know how many people found that queasy back when in the 70s, but nowadays it seems like almost like a fetish. I don't know if that's a fetish on like X videos or whatever porn sites you go to now, but I'm sure there's something about gashes and wounds, or pus-filled whatever kind of thing, or just self-harm in that sense. Even though he didn't do it to himself, he had like kind of mutilation thing, whatever. It's definitely a fetish, but whatever. Then he goes back into the fight. We go into the last fucking round. The round is dragged out already. The champ is hurt. He's holding his right side. His ribs are fucking almost done for, caved in as well. Rocky's face is just taking all the blows that kept coming, and he keeps coming in this one too. Finally, he takes a hit with the fucking, I believe it was the right hand. It might have been the right or the left. I forget too. He takes a swing and it connects on the champ. They both come to the corners. They're both fucking just going at it to the very last second. Ding, ding, 15 round is over. The fight is over. Presumably, they got to go by points. At this point, Rock don't care about nothing. I don't even think he was sure he won. He probably was like, you know what, fuck that. Let me just see what my woman is. And so he's yelling out for Adrian. Yo, Adrian! Yo, Adrian! Or whatever. Paulie pulls him in at the very end of the fight. None of them go down. And he says ain't gonna be no rematch. And he makes it clear, I don't want none. He goes back out to the sea of reporters in the ring, flooding them with questions and shit too. He's not answering shit. He just keeps saying over and over, I'm retired. I ain't never doing this again. Where's Adrian? Where's Adrian? And the ending we ended up getting, not the one we were afraid we would have gotten based off that logic, as far as like they just walk away in a dusty hallway back into the mean streets of very dark at night Philly past midnight. So even though the lady's got a boxer that's holding her arm, it's still like anything could happen. Anybody could be that creepy and just like jerk off on both of us and nut bust on each one of us and run away. Then what are we gonna do? But no, thank God we got the ending we got, as far as Adrian running into the arms of Rocky. I love you, babe. And that's the way the movie ends, with that nice endearing little moment. He went the distance. He took the champ to the fucking edge, and just short of being able to push him off and send him fucking to wherever he's supposed to go as far as champions or former champions are concerned. He couldn't just get it right, but he was almost there. He almost did it. He went the distance, as we established already. That was Rocky 1. That's it for today as far as Who This Been Watching, hosted by me, Who This, of course. This is the live edition. You get first on Instagram live at Who This Is 1 every Saturday 2 p.m. and or also the audio version later on will be available on all podcast platforms of your choice and or preference, as well as this, as I stress, the uncut, uncensored, uncircumcised version of Who This Been Watching. You get live on IG, cut up, cleaned, tucked back, turtlenecked for your satisfaction if you're into that kind of thing, on the YouTube version, youtube.com/Who This Is 1. It's been 45 years since the release of that anniversary, officially passed on the 21st of this month, November 2021. Guess what? Do you really think I'd go so much into description or vividly describe the movie as best as I could if I didn't like it? Or I would have pulled another Suicide Squad from 2016 and just like give up halfway through the review and say, you know what, this movie sucks so bad, I gotta give it a 0. Fuck that. I can't even review the whole thing. Not the case with Rocky. As bad as it could potentially get as far as the Rocky franchise is concerned, even then, I'm like, you know what? It's okay. I'll fucking watch it. Never fucking cut it off. So in the case of Rocky 1, listen, it's the first one to start the franchise. As far as the story is concerned, this might have most likely have been set up to be a one-off. Pay the guy, shut him up, his movie's made, he's starting it because he demanded to be. Alright, let him fail at the box office, no one goes to see it, no one gives a shit, no one watches it too. He's slowly forgotten about for forever and ever. Until the exact opposite happens. They give in to his demands, Sylvester Stallone. They said, you know what, we don't want you being the leading man. We got this one, that one in mind. It's like, no, you can't have my movie if I'm not the leading man. Either I'm starring or nobody's starring in nothing, because I don't sell you the rights. And then we go into that, right? Movie's made, it becomes a smash. It becomes an Oscar-winning a multiple Oscar-winning film for 1976. Film, director, and film editing. Won 3 pretty big ones. So to say that a sequel wasn't in the works, that was inevitable. Even though it went from 76 to 79 until we got Rocky 2, there were some movies in between which made it seem like, you know what, I need to start making Rocky 2 or working on it before I absolutely disappear and then my money's gone from Rocky and no one ever wants to hear from me again. Thus, we go into Rocky 2 with that. If you don't believe me, read the fucking story. It's online everywhere now too, since the 45th anniversary just passed. He did touch on that, as he did with Rocky vs. Drago, the director's cut, the pre-interview leading into the world premiere release of that day, November 11th, when Rocky and Drago premiered in theaters. Rocky is I want to say Rocky is my overall favorite franchise of all time as far as movies are concerned, easily. I'm not into Star Wars. I haven't gotten back into Star Wars or tried to as of yet lately. I was supposed to during the pandemic. I just never got around to it. I will try now, but at least for the time being, Rocky is my favorite franchise of all time when it comes to movies. There's no question there. I love Sylvester Stallone. I wouldn't say he's the best action movie star, hero, whatever. There's some other guys I like a lot more. Overall, though, as far as being able to write his shit, direct it, produce it too as well, not in the case of this one, but he wrote it. He didn't direct it. He directed, wrote, and produced Rocky 2, though, however. This is a pleasure to watch every single time. It's 2 hours. I don't feel the 2 hours go by, even though there's a lot of stuff that kind of is in there that maybe wouldn't have hurt so much, but it's so minimal that it's like, you know what? It's only 2 hours. I can watch the whole thing. We can leave this and that, whatever, too, in there, too, and it won't affect the performance. It won't affect, like, how good the movie is. It'll still be good regardless. All in all, who just been watching, 46th episode now for the 45th anniversary of Rocky 1. Come on. You think I'm going to half-ass this shit? Oh, yeah. Out of a scale of 2 yos, out of 2 possible, I'm giving Rocky 1 yo. 2 yos. Yo. Out of 2. It deserves it. It's the one that started the whole franchise. I still feel that Rocky 2 is the better Rocky compared to Rocky 1. My personal favorite, at least, too. But this is a great, awesome, excellent, monumental step in the right direction that it took. It was brave enough to do so. Then fucking 8 films down the road, here we are again with November 2022, approximately scheduled to be the release month for Creed 3. I think that'd be the 9th, was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Balboa, Creed 1, Creed 2. Yeah, that'd be the 9th entry into this fucking franchise. Even though it's a little bit of a branch off, DLC, add-on, Groupon, whatever too, still, it's there. He might not even be in it according to rumors concerning Creed 3. But who knows? We'll fucking see once it drops. That's Rocky 1. I'm Who This. This has been Who This been watching live here on Instagram. This is part 3 of a Rocky November, a series celebrating this excellent franchise known as the Rocky Balboa movie franchise.